part of the spiritual awakening process that you undertake when you first shed the falsehood and you start to adhere to the verses of God with loyalty and sincerity. Aside from the relationship that you find with your Lord, this amazing foundation where you get to build on and you find God answering you back and supporting you in the world that you're in, and you really find God in your life, where you start to find these signs. When you do recognize them, you just break down and prostrate and you start to cry because you see how amazing and close God really is to us. And part of this spiritual awakening is you start to get excited that you want to tell people about this newfound relationship. And that the answer is so simple: just shed all these lies that you've been saying and adhere to the book of God, the Quran. Such a simple fix. You think in your naive nature that people will understand it and people will follow it, and then they will see this amazing world that you walked into. But then you quickly realize that the majority of the world is deaf, dumb, and blind, as God said. They're not loyal to God's verses, nor do they care what the verse really says. They only care about their cult and whatever the cult has been telling them. And the sad part, this applies mostly to those people that claim that they believe in the Quran and that the Quran has the truth in it, yet when you present them the Quran, they don't even consider what the words have been saying. They don't ponder nor they think. After a decade, there are some verses you maybe didn't appreciate at the beginning, but then they start to really make sense. When God is telling you to forsake them peacefully or nicely, and to not associate with them or disassociate. And if they talk to you, tell them the truth and then leave. And if they don't, let them belittle you. And if they cross you, you can cross them. Because you quickly learn that the majority of them are not sincere, nor do they not care. I made it a point in the last little bit to not argue in the source. There are some places where you just don't go and debate and try to have conversations, a theological debate or a conversation with people, because quite frankly, those people are losers. They just sit all day, every day, trying to find people to engage in debates with and conversations and to get points. Nothing is being said to them goes and gets pondered. They don't try to see the other person's perspective. Today, I did break my rule because one person, a viewer, who I appreciate, we talked to a few times, he sent me this invite to one of these places where they open this discussion or challenging people who reject the hadith, and for whatever reason, I wasn't paying attention to that, but for me, I found it as an opportunity to try to give victory to the book of God again and to show them how they're saying lies. I first declined, but then he persisted, and out of respect for him, I chose to join. Now, I'm going to show you what ended up happening, which is what usually happens when you debate Sunnis who are not honest or sincere. They just do the stupid things that they always do. Loser mentality, arrogant mentality. Now, the premise of this debate started, I couldn't record the whole thing. I thought I was recording, but I clicked record halfway through it. But the debate started by him taking me to a verse and saying that the Prophet was teaching the people the book and the wisdom. And then they quickly associate the book as the Quran. And therefore, what is the wisdom? Okay. So if the wisdom are the prophetic words, where do you find the prophetic words? It's in the hadith. But their whole premise is broken because the Quran never calls, the Quran doesn't refer to the Quran as the book and the wisdom in the setting or in the context that it's coming here. So when God is saying he teaches them the book and the wisdom, the book is not the Quran. The Quran is part of the book. And the wisdom is also, you can find the wisdom inside the Quran as well. Okay? So this verse, which is in chapter 62, God clearly states, he is the one who has sent a messenger among the unlearned from them, reciting his verses to them. And that's the Quran. Reciting his verses to them, purifying them, teaching them the book and the wisdom. Okay? So the book and the wisdom is what the conversation was about. And I was trying to tell them that the book is not the Quran, and whoever is telling you that is not telling you the truth. There are some verses where when God is talking directly about the Quran, he will refer to it as a book or the book. But every time God is talking about the book and the wisdom, it's not always the Quran, right? And then for them to say that the wisdom is found outside of the Quran, then it's very simple. You just take them to chapter 17, right? And you take them to verse 39. That is from what your Lord has inspired to you of the wisdom. So do not assign another deity or God with the God, then you would be cast into hell, blamed and defeated. So what has God inspired of the wisdom, right? Okay. Don't walk in the ground, don't walk on the earth exultantly. Do not pursue what you have no knowledge about. Fulfill the measure whenever you measure. Weigh with a straight scale. Do not approach the property of an orphan until they reach maturity. Indeed, the agreements will be accountable. Do not kill a soul. Do not approach fornication. Do not kill your children. Okay? So these are wisdom. These are not signs of God. Do not kill your children is not a sign from God. That's not a proof of God's existence. Okay? That's not a sign. That's wisdom. Don't kill your kids. Don't do that. Why? Because it's an evil manner. So you find when God is saying that the skies bring the water down, and with the water he brings the plant and brings the earth to life, that's a sign. That's an ayah from God. Okay? That is a clear sign. But when he's saying do not kill your kids, that's not a sign. So that's where people fail with understanding what the book and the wisdom is. Me, as a quick response, because Sunnis don't let you finish, I took him to chapter 3 and I said, look, the Torah and the gospel, they are books of God just like the Quran, right? But God said to Jesus, and he will teach about Jesus, and he will teach him the book, the wisdom, the Torah and the gospel. So you could see how the book is separated from the Torah and the gospel, right? And I took him to this verse before I show him on other verses, but then he was like, well, no, you are taking it out of context. So you linguistically failed because we're not talking about Jesus. We're talking about Prophet Muhammad. And what's the book and what's the wisdom? Like, what are you talking about? The gospel, the Torah, and the Quran are fitting in the same category, right? And the book and the wisdom is something now in a different category. And that's what's being said here in this same verse, right? And now I'm going to start this headache of a conversation, and I'm going to show you why these people are like the ultimate form of a loser. Okay, there is no talking, there is no point of talking to them, nor is there a point of engaging with them, because the sincere people, God will give you a way for them to approach you, or you will be in a proper place where if God wanted to guide those people through you, God will make it happen. So do not rush to them, as God said, and let's start this dumb debate.
So basically, we all know that the meaning would be established by the context itself. So you cannot just bring a word that has its meaning established by one context and then apply that meaning to the same word, but at a different context. That doesn't even make any sense. You bring the kitab here. It's just said it's not the Quran because it is applied to the context of Isa alayhi salam.
That's a straw man fallacy, but it's okay. You can carry on.
No, you just say that.
No, let me finish then. You're saying... Because he already interrupted me so many times, and he just sits there and talks for many minutes. And when I say one point, they just jump at you, because that's how mushriks work. So you go with premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, and there's the conclusion. That's the point I'm making. But when you're talking to mushriks, you make premise 1 and they jump at you. No, you made a mistake. Well, you don't even know what I said. I gave you one verse. There's so many. Okay.
I have it clipped. تمام. So basically in the Surah Al-Jum'ah في آية 2 هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم يعلمهم بالكتاب والحكمة. So the kitab al-hikmah here is something different because the context differs. So right now I'm going to ask you the exact same question. I'm going to ask you. You're going to answer to this question. تمام.
Can I answer
I'm going to ask you to. Can I ask you the question?
Can I answer? They keep asking the same question over and over again, but they take like so long to explain themselves as if I don't understand what he said. Hey, I brought you to the verse in chapter 62. We talked about the book and the wisdom. We're saying that the book is the Quran. You took me and started talking about Isa, and the context there is not about the book and the Quran. It's not about the book and the wisdom, which it was, okay? But we get to the point. So now I want to take you back to chapter 62, and you're going to tell me what the book and the wisdom is, and that's the question. Okay, I get it. You already asked it, and I already answered it, but you need more clarifications. But you didn't even let me finish the first answer, so let me answer. Like, I understand what you're saying. They talk to us retarded because they are retarded, because that's how it happens between them. They don't know how to approach or talk to each other. So they end up being rude to everybody else, because that's how they get dealt with. Alhamdulillah, God gave us intellect and understanding for those who follow the Quran. I understood what you're saying. Let me answer you. But you've already made multiple points where you already made the straw man fallacy. You took me out of context and you misattributed what I said about the Quran.
Let me finish.
Okay, so you want to speak?
Let me finish. Okay, you can speak after this question. since we established the linguistic fallacy that you fell into, right now I'm going to go back to the same question, which is
Habibi, I haven't finished answering the same question you asked me about Surah Al-Jumu'ah. Are you going to let me speak, or are you just going to sit there and berate and be arrogant? لأنه أنت هلا مستكبر. خليني أحكي. مستكبر. إيه أنت مستكبر. So now his response is, let's make fun of his accent, because I didn't the mic clipped and I said mustakbir, but I said it in a way where it was a little harsh on the kaf. So let's laugh at him, right? And I repeat it many times just so that I don't let him belittle me. And I'm reminding him that God does not like those that are arrogant, and he's being very arrogant in this position. And now they want to laugh. This is how you get the bayna on them, because on the day of judgment, right, they are going to be presented with what they did. Like this guy is saying that I took the verse out of context, that the book means the Quran, right? So what about in this verse here, and he will teach him the book and the wisdom and the gospel and the Torah. So there's a difference here. What about in the verse where in chapter 2, when Abraham and Ishmael are saying, "Oh Lord, raise among them a messenger for them to recite your verses to them and to teach them the book and the wisdom." Oh, I guess the book was the Quran, and that's what Ishmael and Abraham was praying for, right? They were waiting for just the Quran. That's what it meant here, right? Or what about when God took a covenant with the prophet? This is in chapter 3, verse 81. What I give you of book and wisdom, afterward a messenger will come to you confirming what is with you. So the messengers all got the Quran and the prophetic hadith. This is where they just make no sense. And look here, or do they envy the people for what God has given them of his favor? This is in chapter 4. For we have already given the family of Abraham the book and the wisdom, and we gave them a great kingdom. These Sunnis have no idea what the book and the wisdom is. They really think the book is just the Quran. The book is much bigger than the Quran, but the Quran is part of the book. And when you're learning what the Quran is saying, it's giving you examples of what's in the book. So all the examples in the Quran is covering everything that is in the book that will help you. And the wisdom is what to do and what not to do. It's a very simple concept. That is what Abraham got. That is what Jesus got. That is what Moses got. That is what Muhammad got. That's what they all got. That's why they're prophets. They are taught the book and the wisdom. And they give you a book so that you could also learn the book and the wisdom. Because how did Prophet Muhammad learn the book and the wisdom? Through the Quran. That's what he was inspired with. It's such a simple concept, and it's universal at this point. But they want to now sit and make fun of my accent. And بيستكبروا. والله ما بحب المستكبرين.
I'm sorry.
والله ما بحب المستكبرين.
Okay, Muhammad, you can respond.
So I gave you one example where God is defining what the Kitab al-Hikmah is. And I was showing you how the Kitab والله انتوا you guys are rude يعني. الله أعطاكم مثال كذا محل في القرآن. A lot of places in the Quran where God is talking about the book and hikmah, okay, it is more than just the book that comes down on the prophet. So there's an example where Ibrahim إبراهيم وإسماعيل وربنا بعث فيهم رسول منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. Okay, so that's the same verse the same context which what you were saying. Here it wasn't applying to the Quran. And then I was saying that the gospel, okay, the gospel as well is a book of God, and the Torah is a book of God, just like how the Quran is. But what he was saying to Isa, يُعَلِّمَهُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَالتَّوْرَاةَ وَالْإِنْجِيلَ, which there was a separation between there's a separation between the book of God here, which is the Torah wal-Injil, and the Kitab wal-Hikmah. And it's the same thing, as I said, when Abraham was making his dua with Ismail, وَيُعَلِّمَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. And here, the whole concept, when you're talking about the Ummiyin, you yourself cannot define to me what Ummiyin means in this context. Does Ummiyin mean everybody who's unlettered? So how about we go there before we explain to you what the Kitab wal-Hikmah is as part of the Quran?
طب أولا you did not address his argument at all بس يعني wait let me دقيقة بس. Okay, first of all, you did not answer the question at all.
So to them, they have absolutely no idea what I just said, because they went laughed and they went typed to each other, they left and they made their stupid remarks, but they weren't listening. I did address the point. He made an incorrect definition of what the book is. And I showed him how he's incorrect. But deaf, dumb, and blind, the verses of God don't affect him. He didn't consider the verse that I told him about, Jesus. He didn't consider the verse that I told him about Abraham, where it's exact same context. It's the exact same way of being said. The context cannot change because it's literally word for word at this point. But it was about Abraham and Abraham saying it. So they didn't consider these verses and they come back, oh, well, you didn't answer. And listen, he says literally just the Sunni talking point because that's what he's waiting to hear, despite it not being truth.
What is al-hikmah and what is al-kitab? Al-kitab is the Quran, we know this. What is al-hikmah?
No, al-kitab. You see, well, kitab is Quran, right? Al-hikmah is something else. So what is hikmah? Al-hikmah is in the Quran, buddy. I just showed you. I just showed the whole world, but you just don't listen. You don't know what's in the Quran because you're so busy sitting online all day debating people. You're thinking you're smart, right? But it says right here, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. Right? So there it is. That is from what your Lord has inspired to you of the wisdom. So it seems like you guys are a little lost in understanding what the hikmah is because you don't have hikmah. You don't know how to approach people. You don't know how to talk to people. And you're arrogant. And God doesn't like the arrogant. And because God doesn't like the arrogant, other people don't like the arrogant. I have no problem discussing with you all day if you're just respectful to the verses of God when they're being told to you. It's not the Quran. The Quran is part of the Kitab. That's my point. You don't understand. Okay, الكتاب هو ما كتب الله بالست أيام اللي خلق in the 6 days that God created the world. This is what Allah كتب as the rules around you. والحكمة is to what to do and what not to do. يعني في فرق بين الآية والحكمة. الآية Notice when I am talking, his mouth you can't listen and try to speak at the same time. Because deaf, dumb, and blind, they just want to berate and make fun. I know God is God bringing the water down that brings the life to gives life to the earth. This is a sign of God. Do not kill your kids. That's a hikmah. That's not a sign. You understand me? So al-kitab is everything that God has written for the world to be programmed. Yani for example, God has written for somebody to be guided, he needs to listen, he needs to use his reason and understand, and he needs to turn back to God when there's issues. This is what God has described as. This is what God has described.
All right, so let me address his objection. So basically.
اولا يا مستكبر this تفسير
يعني اذا انت انا قلت مستكبر انا قلت انت مستكبر
سكاب خلاص بالله عليك سكاب خلاص.
So remember, if they're really just constantly trying to poke at you in that way, there's absolutely no problem or blame on you when you give them a taste of their medicine. That's something Noah did. So when he started to build the boat and ignore them, and when they pass by and they start making fun of them, Noah made fun of them too. Because these are idiots. These people are going to be in so much pain on the day of judgment. I showed them how they were clearly misattributing the word, the book, in the Quran, in the context that it came in many verses that have the exact same context, and they still want to sit there and talk about how I'm saying mustakbir. This guy is very arrogant, and he's such a loser. Khalas. You guys are stupid, man. We're here having a theology discussion. You're going to sit here and insult me for making pronunciation errors?
Relax.
First of all, relax. Number two, don't call them...
See, at this point, I just left. Because he's not going to talk to me like he's my dad, okay? He comes in at the end of the conversation. First of all, relax. And then don't talk to them. Who are you? I can talk to them however they're talking to me. And you're not going to sit there and tell me how to handle myself when you guys have absolutely no idea how the Quran works. You have absolutely no idea what you're saying. You have absolutely no idea how to be a Muslim because you don't know how to talk to people. On the day of judgment, God will show you, which you guys don't care about the day of judgment. You care about what Bukhari said. Because I will give you 2 points right now. One, I believe in God, the last day, the angels, the messengers in the books, and I do the prayer and I give from charity. This is what I've been on. ذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمِ. That's it. There's nothing after that. I am doing that. But to you, that's not enough. Now, here's a question for you, you stupid maniacs. You claim that Jesus is coming back. Do you really think Jesus is going to grow a beard and shave his mustache and wear your white hat and wear your white dress and walk around and know 4 fiqhs, and he's going to sit there and talk to people the way you guys talk to people with arrogant style? That's how you're going to think Jesus is? Wallah al-Azim, as God is my witness, because he's a messenger and because he's a prophet, if Jesus was going to come back and he's not going to come back, the majority of you will reject him because of your arrogance. Because he's going to tell you Abu Hurairah was a loser like you, liar who just said lies about God, and whoever follows Abu Hurairah is just like him, just like Paul the apostate, and just like those losers that wrote the Talmud. All of you fell into the exact same trap. You're not going to wake up, that's fine. But when I'm coming to talk to you about the verses of God, show respect to the verses of God, because I'm not your enemy. In fact, I'm the person who's trying to help you to bring back the Middle East to where it's supposed to be. But you guys have lied and been losers for the last 200 years, where now you keep getting divided more and you keep losing every war that comes to you, and you keep playing the victim when you are the ones who are oppressing yourself, because you constantly say lies about God, and God's support only comes to the believers, and God doesn't guide the misguided idiots, losers that want to make fun of believers. So la'nat Allah ala al-mushrikeen.